Welcome to Arise America. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now, US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are calling their Helsinki summit a success. But a growing chorus of critics are calling the summit a disaster. Mr. Trump is being criticized for not pushing Mr. Putin on Russian interference in the 2016 election. An election Mr. Putin admits he wanted Mr. Trump to win. Despite all the evidence provided by US intelligence agencies to the contrary, Mr. Trump says he believes Putin's protestations of innocence.
There was no collusion. I didn't know the president. There was nobody to collude with. There was no collusion with the campaign. And every time you hear all of these, 12 and 14, it's stuff that has nothing to do, and frankly, they admit, these are not people involved in the campaign. But to the average reader out there, they're saying, well, maybe that does, it doesn't. And even the people involved, some perhaps told mis-stories, although in one case the FBI said there was no lie. There was no lie. Somebody else said there was. We ran a brilliant campaign, and that's why I'm president. Thank you.
For more on the fallout from the summit, our guest in New York is Andrij Dobriansky. He's the communications director for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. What's your reaction to this summit?
Stunned as the rest of the world is. I'm sitting here shocked still several hours after it. Nobody could really anticipate just how badly this press conference could have gone, but surely nobody expected that the President of the United States would defend the military intelligence service of Russia in the face of accusations from his own government's federal indictments.
Based on your work with the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, how is the Ukrainian community in the United States responding?
Almost immediately, I can tell you, Charles, that I received messages from Ukrainian community leaders from across the United States stating that they were saddened, they were stunned, they were outraged, they were shocked. But it's not only the Ukrainian American citizens, it is all people who are devoted to the ideals of democracy and freedom, ideals that were not defended by President Trump. Also, almost immediately following the press conference, you heard the support for Ukraine from leaders in Congress, be that members of the Senate or the House or even House leadership. We saw a united voice for Ukraine since 2014. I'm reminding everybody that the United States federal stated policy, as ratified by Congress, is to help Ukraine regain its lands currently occupied by Russia, and that was not defended by President Trump today.
And leading up to this meeting, many analysts, not just in America, but around the world, were wondering what the point of this engagement was. I mean, in your assessment, who benefits from this summit?
I would just simply state that everybody loses. It's not just the Western alliance, the security structure that was helped by the United States to come to fruition after World War II. It is also the people of Russia who suffer because of the continued Putin regime, which hurts them, hurts the rest of the world, as the greatest existential threat, according to the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States. Russia remains the greatest existential threat to the United States, and therefore by extension to Europe, Ukraine, and the rest of the world.
Nevertheless, of course, it's the first time in 8 years that a Russian leader has got together with an American president. I mean, when viewed in that context, how significant is that?
It is quite significant that there was a joint press conference. You are correct that we haven't had one since early 2009. However, this still boggles the imagination. The fact that a United States president, when asked repeatedly to simply name a single crime committed by Russia, Nothing came to mind. Not tomorrow's anniversary of the downing of MH17, which included in its 298 innocent men, women, and children, included a United States citizen. Nothing about the territorial invasion of Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova, all of which was mentioned in the NATO declaration just this past week. Nothing about the poisoning of UK citizens with the Novichok nerve agent. So of all the crimes to mention, not least of which the Russian invasion military attack on the United States election process, none of this was mentioned by the president. Instead, he focused solely on his own personal demands.
And given what you've just said, what is your sense then of what Mr. Putin was hoping to gain from this meeting? Is this a sort of legitimization of what you called Russia's crimes abroad, including the annexation of Crimea? And is it your sense that he's achieved this?
Well, simply the giving a dictator, giving an autocrat like Putin a press conference, similar to the Singapore press conference with Chairman Kim of North Korea, is immediately giving President Putin the legitimacy on the international stage. But it's not only just giving him the press conference, it's ceding importance, ceding the role of leadership by the United States by offering the bulk of the press conference to President Putin. He did the majority of the speaking. He led off with his statement, framing the debate between the United States and Russia as he saw it. And the President of the United States did not come back when the President of Russia claimed that the invasion of Ukraine was an internal Ukrainian matter. Also did not care to clarify, President Trump did not care to clarify when the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, put the words of President Trump in their private meeting out in public, saying that the president had some statements to make about Crimea, but President Trump in public did not say anything.
And let's just return briefly to something you said earlier. Mr. Trump did not condemn Mr. Putin for meddling or for its so-called aggression in Ukraine. I mean, what language did your group want to hear from Mr. Trump?
Well, quite simply, that statement has been included in various pieces of legislation in the United States, as well as international declarations, simply reaffirming the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia's forces are in Ukraine. The United States has declared, since the inauguration of President Trump, has named a special representative simply to deal with the Ukraine crisis. Ambassador Kurt Volker himself has visited Ukraine, has stated that there are more Russian tanks in Ukraine than there are tanks of the Western Alliance in all of Europe. So the United States knows full and well the extent of Russia's invasion and military occupation of Ukraine. However, the president did not take any moment of his joint press conference to reaffirm that, even when President Putin mentioned Ukraine by name.
And just returning briefly to the impact of this summit inside the United States, what about the significance of that tweet earlier from President Trump where he was blaming poor US relations with Russia on American stupidity, not on Russia's policies or politics or actions?
Correct. Again, when confronted by a reporter to simply state any responsibility by Russia for anything, that was as vague as the question was. Nothing came to mind for President Trump, only blaming the United States. In the words of one reporter there, I heard blame United States first. It's an apt moniker for the president in terms of his performance today. Again, the president of the United States could have listed any number of international crimes committed under President Putin, not least of which is the unprecedented meddling in the United States election. He could have also mentioned what has been confirmed by United States intelligence service as Russian interference in the Brexit referendum, as well as France's most recent presidential elections. All of this has been confirmed by the United States intelligence services, none of which was brought up today.
And just going beyond the sort of the impact of the diplomacy inside and outside America, you watched that press conference. Did you get the sense that there was chemistry between the two leaders? Was the body language rather a bit cool or not?
I'm not a good reader of body language. Apparently, there are some people who would defend the president's statements very small after today, but who would think there is something between the two leaders. I did not read any distinct eye contact between them. There was a wink from here and there, but nothing pertaining to being able to realize what their relationship was. I did, however, notice the fact that the President of the United States ceded the bulk of the speaking, ceded the leadership of the occasion to President Putin in a manner that we have not seen an American president cede that sort of authority as leader of the free world to, again, the greatest existential threat to the United States, which is the Russian Federation.
Andrij Dobriansky, Communications Director for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, I want to thank you very much indeed for joining us there. You're watching Arise America.
From coast to coast, every culture, every angle. This is Arise America.